So good to see everybody. I'll jump right in. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, we're going to start with a Treasurer's Report membership update. We're very excited to be joined by Deputy Chief Wayne Vincent this evening. We've had a myriad of various violent incidents in the neighborhood, so glad to give everybody a one-on-one to chat with him and do a brief Q&A and go over each of these incidents thoroughly. Then we'll do neighborhood updates and upcoming events, and then we can all go eat and do whatever you need to do this evening. So I don't think Meredith is on. Okay, I don't know if Meredith is our treasurer, so I'll read for her. So we have about $3,700 in the till right now. About 57 dues paying members as this month for 2023. And the man of the hour. Submitting some folks. There we go. Okay. So we have Deputy Chief Wayne Vincent from ACPD here. He currently serves as Deputy Chief of Police, assigned to the Community Engagement Division. He's a 27-year veteran of ACPD and began his, I need to move this. There we go. Began his career as a patrol officer in 1995. Prior to being appointed Deputy Chief, he served as captain of the Human Resources Management Section, providing oversight and director for recruitment, retention strategies, and the expansion of departmental training. During his tenure as captain of the Community Resources Section, Vincent adopted the department's community policing model. So it's good to have you with us.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. Hi, Alex. It's good to see you so soon, but good to see you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to get right to the question that was asked. Did we have a shooting this earlier today in Westover? We did, but just to bring some clarity to that, we did have a shooting today in the 5800 block of Washington Boulevard, but it was actually ended up being just a reckless handling of a firearm, meaning a resident mistakenly discharged their firearm and the round went into a neighbor's apartment. So it is technically a shooting in Westover, but it is not one that we actually did charge the person, but it's not one that your typical, I shouldn't say typical, but the other shootings we've had in the county recently. And so I think we have some questions here. So let me see if I can answer most of these and in what manner. Let me just ask you, Alex, do you want me to hit these specific questions or just go overall and over some overall stats that I may have just to share with you as well?
That would be great. I'm happy to let you screen share as well if you have anything you want to pull up visually. So I just put together, I think these are probably the 4 main instances of violent crime I definitely wanted to touch on pertinent to Penrose. I'm sure other folks have some other questions. So maybe we can dive into these. We have the Caspi shooting, the Wakefield High School lockdown, the Bob and Edith incident, and the one on January 1st on South Beach Street. So we'll start. How about we tackle these, and then we'll let folks dive in with other concerns they may have or other things I may not be aware of. I think you're muted there.
Absolutely. With me today is also, I want to introduce my colleague, Sergeant Aaron Queen. Sergeant Queen works in our Community Engagement Division. He oversees half of our team. This is his end of the week that's working today. And so I've asked Aaron to join me, and he'll speak a little bit, if we have time, about what the Community Engagement Division has upcoming events we have that may interest some of you. But I know from recent meetings, and it has been a busy first of the year, shall we say, so I'll get right to this. On January 1st, gunshots fired into bedrooms filling a residential home in the 500 block of South V Street. To be honest with you, I didn't know about that question, so I'd have to look into that, and I could probably do it if you give Aaron a few seconds to talk about us, and I'll look into it very quickly, but I do not recall that, but it does not stand out to me, so I'll keep going. January 30th, a man was shot after gunfire in Green Valley and along Columbia Pike, where Bobness was damaged by bullets. And you are correct about that. And I did give the Pikes presidents a briefing on that a while ago, but I'll just say this, that is still an active investigation. So I'm kind of limited as to what I can say about that. But yes, that was another shooting in the Green Valley area. I can tell you, we have determined that shooting ended up, they are connected, shall we say. where that shooting started in Green Valley and then moved its way into the Penrose area. And we did have somebody shot. We also had one or two rounds that went into Bob Bonita's window. Thank God no one else was shot. The victim in that shooting, it's my understanding, he has survived, thank God, and he has since been released from the hospital. But again, that is an active investigation by our homicide robbery unit. February 2nd, the Wakefield High School placed on lockdown due to report of an armed trespasser. That is correct. Wakefield High School, I'll speak in general speaking, has had, unfortunately, so far has been very busy this year. In that particular week where we had a lockdown, we also unfortunately lost a student to an overdose of, we suspect it's going to be fentanyl, although the medical examiner's report has not been returned yet. That being said, on that day, on February 2nd, the school actually put themselves on lockdown. We obviously had a large response to that. We determined, working with APS, that the trespasser was not on scene before this left the school, before it was placed on lockdown. The investigation continued, working with the schools, where we identified that subject, made an arrest, and a search warrant subject to his arrest. We took 3 weapons from that person's residence, one of which the serial number on the weapon was scraped off, shall we say, removed, which is a serious felony in the Commonwealth and actually in the United States for that matter. That investigation continues as well. People have asked me before, could this be related to any of the gunfire? And again, I think because the gunfire in Green Valley and previous shots in Green Valley is under investigation, I'm not at liberty to speak about that. But that case continues. Just so you all know, too, APS wanted to prosecute that case, and I think I support that. I 100% support that, again, because this person, unfortunately, also was illegally in possession of 3 weapons. February 4th, shooting outside of Caspian Lounge in Columbia Pike next to Cinema and Draft. That, I will just say, ended up being a dispute that was inside Caspi that carried on outside where the shooting occurred. The subject who was shot multiple times. They have since survived. I am not sure if they have been released yet, but they have survived the shooting, and that again remains an active investigation. I will say this: some of you may be familiar with our Arlington Restaurant Initiative. That's part of our business outreach unit, part of my unit, and that's where our unit works with our businesses to ensure a safe environment, such as making sure that training not just bartenders, but also security and management on how to deal when there seems to be, when to call the police, first of all, what's the legal limit that you can continue to serve somebody alcohol, and also looking out for any kind of sex trafficking or sexual assaults that can be occurring in our bars and restaurants. This establishment, Caspi, is not ARI certified, but we are working with the management during this investigation to ensure that they get ARI certified, which we think should decrease some of their incidents like this. Now, this is an extreme one. We have been called to them in the past year, but I will say this: it's nothing that would have raised a red flag to us yet, any more so than any other restaurant along Columbia Pike or in Clarendon. But we are keeping an eye on that to make sure that they are within the law. I will say this too, that thus far, Caspi management has been cooperating with us fully with this investigation as well. And I'm not going to say I'd be shocked if there was more problems there, but we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on Caspi, and like we do with all the restaurants and bars along the Columbia Pike corridor. Are there any questions that I can answer about any particularly those last 3 incidents?
Yeah, I have a couple, and thank you very much, Deputy Chief, for joining us tonight. I mean, it sounds like Caspi's now the new Purple Lounge, according to what you're saying. But on the January 30th issue, was that a attempted carjacking or gang related? I know you said you can't comment further, but like everything you said so far is public knowledge. It's all in RL Now, which we all read. So, like, I mean, there's definitely concern within the neighborhood association of gang-related activity on a regular basis. But can you say, I mean, there's also a lot of carjackings recently too. So, can you say which variety these are related to?
I can say this, that we do not believe this is carjack related. And I don't want to speak out of terms by saying what I believe it could be, because it is an active investigation. I will say that. But I will say that I think this is this incident is one that we do not feel that there's any ongoing threat to the community. I can say that with confidence, but I cannot say that if it's related. It's not. I don't believe it's a carjacking in any manner. It is, and the only reason why Penrose actually, to be honest with you, is because it was ongoing, starting in Green Valley, and it ended up coming into your neighborhood, unfortunately.
Cool. And thank you. Yeah, both my uncle and grandfather are career police officers, and so appreciate all the work you all are doing.
Thank you, sir.
Were
Any
any
other?
of these gang related?
That's undetermined at this time. Arlington gangs in Arlington have changed, shall we say? We don't have that open gang market or open gang hanging out like we did many years ago. But we certainly still have gangs are active in all of Northern Virginia. So to say that Arlington does not have gangs would be challenging for me to say that. Is this gang related? I can't say that for now. I really cannot. But again, we do not believe this is there's an ongoing threat to the community as of now. There's no reason to believe that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Terry?
Hi, I guess my question is about the high school incident and the red incidents at the high school. Although not right in Penrose, the kids from here go there. And so there is controversy about the police officers from the schools versus what they have now is private security. And which is the best way to go with that, in your opinion? Is one more accountable than the other if there was an incident with security mishandling something versus police?
Well, I'll just say this. As you all know, about 2 years ago, the school board removed the SROs, or they told the police that they no longer wanted SROs. In lieu of that, the schools have since then hired what they call, I believe, SSOs. But essentially what they are state certified security officers for the schools. And they have to be trained by what's called a state agency that oversees all training for law enforcement, which is called DCJS, but all it is the Department of Criminal Justice Services. And so, I can't speak to, the training or the personnel that APS is hiring because I have nothing to do with that. But they are not just your security guards you see in any more of our local stores, shall we say, like a retail store. But they are certified security officers, certified by the state. Which is better? To be quite honest with all of you, I think the removal of the SROs, and I'm being selfish about this, honestly, because I was in charge of the SROs years ago, but I think removing the SROs was a mistake. But that's my opinion. It's a position of the police department as well. But no situation is perfect. And so we continue to work with APS to ensure a safe community.
Justin, you have a question?
Hello. Sorry.
Yeah,
Alex?
I do.
Oh,
Okay, we're gonna Justin, Nadeem, and then Lynn. Yep.
So I guess what type of precautions are what type of precautions is the Arlington County Police Department taking to prevent any more incidents in Penrose?
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing, not just in Penrose. Well, I could say not just Penrose. Very soon, in the next month, we're putting out a detail of officers whose sole, and they're going to be working at special hours in conjunction with our normal patrol to address high crime, and especially and that will be based on data, not just how we feel. And so, whether it be the carjackings in Crystal City, whether it be increased violence in Green Valley, whether it be shootings or not. Wherever we see data is telling us that there's high increase in crime, it could even be Pentagon City Mall has always got high crime because of larcenies and the vehicles coming in and out of there. That group of team, that group of officers, which we're calling the CAT team, we're going to deploy them 5 to 6 days a week during those high crime hours, which again will be data-based to address some of those issues.
Thank you, Officer Wayne.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Advice.
Good question.
Sorry about that.
If I may quickly, going back to the Caspi issue, this is exceptionally close to me because, for one, I used to own a hookah bar myself in Georgetown. So I'm familiar with the crowd and the necessity to be extra careful with, the late night crowd in general and the bar crowd. The other problem is, or the other point is, actually, we're talking to Libby from the board about the very same locations few days before the shooting. And the complaint was more about the lack of respect for parking or the intersection, Walter Reed and Columbia Pike. Often at night, you'll see cars parked 2 rows, blocking the right turn, creating pretty dangerous, road conditions. And we will see officers in patrol vehicles seeing this and continues to be ignored. We can spend hours talking about policing theories and broken windows, but I feel when, small infractions are allowed to happen continuously, eventually we'll see bigger infractions and shootings that we've seen already.
Well, you certainly bring up a good point, but I'll just share with you an opposite point. And I'm going to use Clarendon as the example. And Clarendon is a perfect example of community policing, I believe, at its best, where a few years ago, Clarendon was clearly getting out of control for us. And I think once we began to develop and create the ARI I talked about, Arlington Restaurant Initiative, and we began to work with the business owners, and I think to create an atmosphere of safety, I think things have now become better. Now, the biggest difference between Clarendon and obviously Columbia Pike is we put anywhere between 10 and 12 officers in Clarendon every Friday and Saturday night at quite the expense. And so we may not see those issues in parking. I will tell you, there are people who are clearly maybe intoxicated, not drinking in public, that are I could put it this way. We could lock up dozens of people every night in Clarendon if we wanted to. We choose not to do that because we believe that if we did that, it would probably cause us more problems than it's worth, to be quite honest with you. And it's better to work with the businesses because we've learned over the years, you can't arrest your way out of any problem, right? It takes the community and us. And I think working with the businesses to look at, okay, what are you looking at and what is it worth arresting somebody versus working with them? Now, traffic, when it comes to traffic on on Columbia Pike and Walter Reed, I have to defer to our special operations section and also to our midnight shift, which I have no problem talking to them about that. And again, I'm not one to believe that automatically means just ticket everybody, as opposed to working with the business to have signs maybe saying, hey, if you park in these locations, the police department will ticket you or tow you. So again, we're always looking for compliance before making any kind of arrest or even worse, towing somebody. But in cases where it's necessary, we absolutely will do it. So I wrote that down now, and I will make sure our midnights folks know that we're seeing parking issues. And I assume this is when the business closes at 2 a.m. or 1:30, or is it all throughout the evening?
No, I mean, people will just park in the middle of the road on the right turn lane and even the lane adjacent to it and just go in. And the car will be, this is not a stopped vehicle. This is a parked vehicle without an occupant in the vehicle. So
they'll throw their hazards on and dropping and picking folks up. I see it all the time, right in front of somebody's house.
Yeah. And we actually dealt with that in Clarendon. So I'm glad you brought that up. We dealt with that with Clarendon, where we now have share ride parking. We now have temporary parking, where we've basically taken away all the parking and made it just for temporary stop and go. Because again, that's impossible to control unless you put an officer on that corner every night. So that's, again, something I'm glad you brought to my attention, that we can work with DES and traffic and figure out, like, okay, if this business is having these kinds of issues, what else can we do to mitigate that?
Well,
As a-
just a final point, and I apologize for interrupting you, but if you're saying there are 12, nightlife businesses in Clarendon, and you have 10 to 12 officers available at any night over there, well, there is at least one very active nightlife spot on Columbia Pike. What
And I don't doubt
resources
that.
are being available for the citizens of that neighborhood when they get affected by crimes, fighting in the street, and now shootings from that location, and it's very specific to that location.
And I'm not debating that with you, but what I will tell you is Clarendon is the reason why that the county and the police department decided to put those resources in Clarendon was because of we can tell from data that you have that many thousands or hundreds of people that are in Clarendon at that time, that we can only deploy our resources, but so many places. Because I'll tell you, the bars and restaurants from Crystal City have requested assistance, as well as Ballston. So we're stretched very thin. But it seems like Clarendon seems to be our hottest spot because of the number of bars and restaurants in that area. Now, that being said, the reason why those 12 and 10 are there is so that the normal midnight officers don't have to respond to Clarendon, because they can continue to patrol the rest of the county. Whereas if we got rid of that or deployed that, midnight officers would have to be deployed to bar fights, and quite frankly, they have a hard time just keeping up with the calls for service. I would dare to ask you guys how many midnight officers you think work in Arlington outside of those 12 people. And I won't even ask that question, but I'll just share with you that on an average night, on any night in Arlington, you probably have no more than 15 or 16 officers working midnights, the entire county. So just keep that in mind as to why we deploy so many resources in Clarendon. And they're busy up there.
One unrelated question real quick, what happened to the auxiliary program if you guys are so thin on resources?
Well, the auxiliary program, it's interesting you say that. We're now looking at that program to see if it's actually viable. And the reason for that is because, remember, our auxiliary program, they are not armed, and they tend to be some of our older residents, shall we say. And we tend to use them when we can partner them up with officers during special events, such as the Marine Corps Marathon, the hundreds of 5Ks that we do. We don't tend to deploy them during midnight hours, just for the fact of a safety concern, because their uniforms, they look just like ours, which is also something we're kind of rethinking now. But again, they don't have a weapon on them. So, we're trying to make sure we put them in a safe environment. And again, it is 100% voluntary, and we don't get a lot of people that want to volunteer to work during those nightlife areas. Yeah. I just want to comment, because somebody made a comment about Caspi as a new Purple Lounge. I will just say this about that. I will say, from a police department's perspective, we are not there yet. And so I don't want any of you to think that that we consider Caspi Lounge like a purple lounge yet. We're not there yet. And my goal is to actually address these issues with management before we even get to that place. This is a business in Arlington that's bringing entertainment to the county, bringing money to the county. And so our goal is to continue to work with them like we would with any other business in the county. But the issue is that we want to make sure it's a safe business. No doubt about that. Not just for management, their customers, but also for the community.
Sorry, to put people's mind at ease, what is the difference between Purple Lounge? Like, why is it not there yet? What will get Caspi to Purple Lounge level of infraction?
Well, Purple Lounge, it's been a while, and I was here obviously, but I was not assigned to Community Engagement Division at the time. But the Purple Lounge had, as I recall, several high-profile violent incidents in their establishment, along with clear violations of state code, whether it be probably alcohol related. And so I think that, again, I think we are not there yet with Caspi. And I think, unlike Purple Lounge, Caspi's management is working with us. And so it is my hope that we can get Caspi to a place where everyone feels safe, to include all of you, since it is your neighborhood.
Okay, we have a question from Terry, and then I'm going to move into 2 other points. One of which regarding the spray paint on the 2600 block, salsa room, and then across where the ski chalet used to reside, and then the shoplifting incident over at Giant. But I'll let Terry go ahead.
So yeah, something just came in as we were talking. I'm going to read it. Something about a carjacking on Saturday night. I think it was 2030 North Adams Street.
Yeah, I believe if that's the one I'm thinking about, I believe we made an arrest on that carjacking.
Okay.
Wait 1 second. Let me just get to this.
A tenant in a garage was carjacked at Circle Condo on Saturday, 2030 North Adams Street.
Yeah, we made. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm asking Sergeant Queen if he can look into that briefly, since he's not on with me right. He's not on right now, but I believe we made an arrest on that, and we put a press release out about that, about that carjacking. So yeah, and I can get you if you guys. I can look into that carjacking, but we did make. I'm almost positive we made an arrest on that.
So in general, are these adults? Are they Arlington residents? I mean, what is your thinking on
Well,
that?
no, actually, no, we don't believe so. We think most of the carjackings that came out of Crystal, that are mostly occurring on the edge of your community in Crystal City, are people coming from outside of Arlington. They tend to like higher end vehicles like BMWs. Again, we did make a recent arrest on that. Whether it's going to be related to all the others, we can't say right now. At least I have not been told so. So carjackings are up. They are up in our county just because of the recent flare we've seen. But I will tell you, carjackings are up pretty much in the region as well. The idea now for us is to make sure that our residents are being more aware of their surroundings. They are not, and to be honest with you, some of them are parking in areas, not that they shouldn't be there, but again, being aware of your surroundings and understanding that carjackings are up, especially in the Crystal City area.
Hey, Chief, you mind me interrupting? I want to update everyone on the one shooting that happened. According to them, was New Year's Day, but it was actually New Year's Eve. According to the Watch Commander's report, it was 1561 11th Street South, and it was a missile into an occupied dwelling. Around 1810 hours, units respond for the residents of 4 gunshots into their home. When police got there were several rounds inside of a back wall. The investigation revealed that it might be a family member due to an ongoing family dispute, and that seemed like it was home was targeted by that family member, and that investigation is going on. So in that incident, it wasn't a random act of violence. It was a family member against a family member.
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're referring to the South V Street one. I had read anecdotally from Arlington Now that it was the homeowner had came back from a trip, I believe, and had seen the bullet lodge in his bedroom window, or excuse me, bedroom ceiling.
I just want to add to everybody, so everybody knows to where we are with this. As our department, we are taking more guns off the street than we've ever seen before. We can't explain if there's a reason for that or not, but it's just I just share that with you. Our annual report should come out in March, and it will show that, again, during routine, or I should say during searches, during incident to arrests, or during investigative stops, that we're taking more guns off the street. Sometimes they're legal, sometimes they're not. But it seems like our fellow residents or visitors to Arlington are carrying more guns. And so we should all be aware of that. We are taking some preventive steps to remind people of the laws in Virginia as far as concealed weapon permits, as far as gun safety at home, and certainly if anybody wants to destroy a gun, the police department working on advertising this more, where if you want to destroy a gun, that the police department will take it free of charge, and your weapon will be destroyed by us. And again, that has nothing to do with Second Amendment rights. It's just letting people know that may not want weapons anymore. But we are seeing an increase in that. If I may, I'm just going to go very quickly, and I'm here for as long as you want. I'm just going to go over real quick some stats that I noticed in your community that I think is relevant. And so I'm just going to talk briefly about what I'm seeing. What I did was I just compared your stats from all of 2021 to 2022. And there were some things that stood out and some things that did not. that I just wanted to share with you. And again, this is strictly for your community only. Robberies. Your robberies, you had 10 in 2021. You only had 2 last year in 2022. So that's down almost 80%. Your DUIs were up. DUIs, I just shared that with you because I knew some people were thinking about, were asking me about racing on the Columbia Pike. We very routinely have extra patrols because the Columbia Pike is such a throughway, and the fact that you went from 21 to 32 DUIs between 2021 and 2022 kind of shows that we're always patrolling Columbia Pike. Let me see what else stood out to me. Larcenies were up by about 12%. I'm not surprised by that because of the new retail in your retail area in Penrose. You had 30. I mean, and people usually ask me about robberies or thefts from the Giant. Again, this is a larceny, not a robbery, a larceny. So larceny reports went from 39 and 21 to 44 and 22. Now, I will tell you, this is the one stat that that definitely concerns me. You only had 2 stolen vehicles in 21, and you had 15 in 22. I mean, that's a 13 vehicle rise. It's a 650% increase. That is a concern of mine because you just question why. Can I share my screen real quick? Do you mind, Alex?
Oh, absolutely.
Also,
Yeah.
can you explain the difference between robbery and larceny, and also what type of cars are being targeted?
Yeah. Well, the difference between a robbery and a larceny is going to be force. So in other words, if I walk into Giant and I take some groceries and I walk out, and someone could yell at me if they want, but I just keep walking with this. I don't use any physicality to move to get away. I just walk away, and the store just says, let them go. That's a larceny. If I was to, if personnel in the Giant would try to stop me and I push my way out, or if I walked up behind somebody and actually used some kind of force to take something from you, that's a robbery. That would be the difference. Let me
Thank
see.
you.
Oh, absolutely. Let me see if I can pull up. I just wanted to share. Can you guys see this?
Not yet.
Oh, wait, I know. I didn't say share screen.
And the cars that are being stolen, like I know there's like that whole Kia flaw that's being remedied, but is there any pattern in which type of cars are being stolen?
No. I'll get right back to that. Alex, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on. Technical difficulty. Let me see here. Okay.
While he's figuring that out, are you as glad that Beth Arthur's leaving as I am? I'm just kidding. She's a friend of mine, and I'm chatting with her right now.
Well, please give Beth my best. Beth was and continues to be a great partner in law enforcement. I mean, she gave a lifetime to the sheriff's office and to law enforcement and to our community. And she's also a good friend of mine. So if you are talking to her, please give her my best. She is, I consider her a good friend. I'm sorry to see her go, but I'm also very happy for her. She's put her time in and deserves to enjoy her retirement.
Absolutely.
Totally.
That should be good to go for you now.
Okay.
It says all participants can share.
No, I got it. I just
Okay.
can't find where I can actually, let me see. I'm not seeing where I can share it. I mean, I don't see my document, put it that way. That's too bad. I really wanted to show you guys this. Oh, wait, maybe this is it. Yeah, okay, I got it. Can you guys see that?
It's booting up.
You see it?
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you see the dots in your community, that's where your cars are being stolen from. You know, I mean, and to me, the piece that gets to me is obviously along Columbia Pike. And so I think, you know, we may have to do some education because your larcenies from auto, and I have to look it up. Let me look it up. But that is interesting to me. So most of your stolen cars are along Columbia Pike. And so there's some education to be done there to remind people to lock their doors and to make sure they make sure they park in lit areas. So I just want to share that so you saw where most of your cars are being stolen from. And so I'll stop sharing that and I'll go back and just finish up. Please.
You said to make sure your cars are parked in lit areas. I was just, when I was speaking to Alex before the meeting started, I have reached out to Arlington County because South 9th Street it only has one street light, and I'm requesting another light to be placed on that street. But South Courthouse Road is also dark. I mean, I have put bright lights all around my house because it's extremely dark. And I'm not sure what we can do as a community to get brighter lights on our street.
Just
Well,
just
I
out of
can-
curiosity,
I'll go ahead. I was gonna say, I can certainly, put in a separate request, write the county directly, and what I can do from my vantage point as president of the neighborhood. You know, I've had a lot of success getting a lot of,
I'm just curious though.
I think a lot of things resolved, so I'm happy to, dive in. It's anything I can do, happy to do it.
I'm just curious if you check the lights, are they actually working? Because there are a lot of lights that actually go out.
Yes, I'm always reporting lights when
Okay, okay.
Some
just
of
to pick-
them you go through the county, and others you have to go through Dominion Energy.
Right.
But I report them as soon as I see them.
Just to piggyback off of that real quick. So I'm a renter in an apartment complex. Does the rental property owners have an obligation to fix lights like that when they're out as well? Like we wouldn't report that through the county, but like my apartment complex is notoriously not good at fixing things like that.
It would truly depend if it's private property or actually county property. And honestly, your rental property should know if it's theirs or not. That should not be a problem for them. They should know that.
So like if people feel unsafe, can we lodge a complaint with the county, or if the apartment complex is non-responsive?
Yeah, because and you can also contact Sergeant Queen or not, because again, we can look at it because you can normally tell if it's a street light or if it's another light. You can normally tell that. Like, what kind of light are we talking about?
No, I mean these are definitely up on the apartment complex. So like, but the apartment complex is very bad at fixing these type of things and not responsive.
Yeah, that's a private property. That's a private property thing, to be quite honest with you. Even it's the same situation I hear from your community a lot about, like graffiti. It's like if you have graffiti on private property, all we can do is really talk to the owners and say, hey, for the sake of broken windows theory, as was already broken up, we really want you to get rid of this because it's gonna cause people to come and do more graffiti. Whereas if it's county property, we can take care of it within 72 hours. But again, with lights like that, that is really on the ownership, not on the police or the county. But you want to verify that's not a county light. I mean, you really do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to these private property matters where they're not upholding their end of, your rental agreements, whether it's, lighting or other safety issues, it's why we have an association. So, always feel free to reach out to me. We can put a formal letter together and put that pressure on, property management, et cetera, on that. So.
I just wanted to end with one last stat that I thought was relevant to your community was larcenies from auto, and they were down, but slightly. You went from 22 to 19. And again, I would, my thing is when we usually see larceny from autos, a large majority of larceny from autos, which is basically people just stealing stuff from within your car. It's because people left their doors unlocked. And so it's always a reminder to us, to all of you, is to clearly lock your door, one, and then two, don't hide any valuables, because certainly if someone sees a locked door, they may not go in, but if they see a laptop sitting on the passenger seat, to them it may be worth it, a crime of opportunity where they will break your window to get that laptop. I will also say this too, that we have in our possession a few steering wheel locks for those of you that own Kias. And if anybody would like one, I only have a limited amount. If anyone would like one, you can certainly email myself or Sergeant Queen, and I will make sure you get one if you have any Kias. You saw that DC and PG County recently gave some away, and we'll be doing the same thing for the limited amount that we have.
Thank you. Justin, do you have a question or a comment? I thought your hand was up.
Yeah, actually you may have actually answered my question. If it was on Arlington County Police has any program set up to help mitigate the amount of sorry, weather's causing me to be a little sick today, but if Arlington PD has any program set up to help people better protect their cars or vehicles.
That would be the only one that we have right now. I don't know if we're seeing an increase in overall stolen cars, but that would be the one right now. And again, I think the best thing we could do right now is continue to remind our folks that education of locking the door and hiding their valuables. That's the only one we have right now. And the reason why you saw, I think PG County, I think Prince William County, and now Arlington County are giving away locks is because we all applied for a grant. And we work with a grant to go ahead and buy these locks for our residents. Unfortunately, it's very hard to. They're limited right now. We only have a few. But again, if any of you have any and you would like one, please don't hesitate to contact me. It's actually going to be more than Kias. It's another kind of car too. But I just have to let me find out which kind of car because it's more than just
Hyundai.
Yeah, it's also a Hyundai. Well, I know it's a Hyundai, but let me see what kind it is. I'll continue to ask questions and look for that. But if anybody has that type of car, just contact us and we'll get it for you.
Anyone else have
Thanks.
any questions, concerns that have gone unanswered thus far?
It is Hyundai. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It is Hyundai's and Kia. Anybody who owns any of those type cars, please reach out to us.
I mean, if anybody wants to sell me a used hybrid, I'm in the market. Real quick, if nobody else has any questions, so number one, my day job is I work for AFSCME and super pro union. I love that the county's going with AFSCME now recently. Do you feel like, is there any resources from Richmond that you're not getting that you're asking for?
When you say Richmond, I believe you obviously mean you mean legislation of the governor's office, I assume?
Well, yeah. Like support, like resources that the Commonwealth could be providing that you're not. I mean, I know that the session's about to wrap up, but do you think?
No, I mean, like every other county, I think that we've, from a law enforcement perspective, we have a liaison through the county that's working diligently, addressing some legislation that's coming through. That's law enforcement related. I think right now, I think one of the biggest concerns right now, and I think the governor is trying to address it, is the issue with emergency custody orders and temporary detention orders. Meaning when we're dealing with people in mental crisis, the police department all police departments or law enforcement across the Commonwealth are spending a tremendous amount of time on resources waiting for available beds and facilities for people in crisis. And I think the governor, the governor's, I think he's trying his best to give us funding to open up more hospital beds, but it's a slow process. But we are working with our Department of Human Services, Marcus Alert, things like that to move forward on this. But that continues to be one of our biggest challenges, one of our biggest requests to Richmond.
Yeah, no, I saw that there is bipartisan work on that, and Creed Eads is working with them, and everybody's supporting that. Also, do you feel like your pay and benefits are competitive with other local law enforcements for getting you the officers you need?
Well, I'll tell you, from just so you all know, the police department right now is currently about 65 officers down. Our functional strength is right around 275. We have an authorized strength of 377. The reason why that number is so down is because we have to think about our functional strength, meaning which officers could actually go out in uniform and do the job. And right now it's about 277. That does affect neighborhoods like yours because it limits to what we could put out in the street for calls for service. And so I told you all, like right now, the evening shift is on. There's I guarantee it's somewhere between 18 and 20 officers patrolling all of Arlington. When I first came on 25, and I even go at 28 years ago, there would almost be up to another 5 or 6, 25, 26 officers on the street. So this is clearly affecting us. You guys have all heard when we had to reduce some services, pushing more reports to online reporting. So with that said, what makes us competitive? I think certainly pay and benefits is something that's very important. We now, with Virginia now being now being a union state, I think our police officers union are trying to work with the county board to ensure that our starting salary and our benefits remain and continue to be, I think, what should be a top tier, being a competitive job in this market. I think why we deserve that, just from a personal view, we are one of the few agencies, if not the only in this area, that require 60 college credits. And statistically speaking, the vast majority of our officers have 4-year degrees, whereas the other agencies around us do not require that. And so I believe that is worthy of a top tier salary and benefits, but I'm not on the county board.
No, I appreciate that. Do you think we should drop that requirement?
That's another question too. It's a good question. There are studies out there that show that officers who have 4-year degrees or officers that are 25 years and older have less of a chance to use of force. And so use of force is a big deal today in policing, obviously. We have done it, like many other agencies in this nation, have done tremendous changes to police during the police reform era after the murder of George Floyd. I think there are different opinions on that. Is it really lowering your standards to not require college? I would be opinionated to say yes or no, but I think when you look at it, it is definitely one of our largest, if not our largest, barrier to hiring more people. And especially when you talk about hiring a diverse workforce, which should represent our community. I can clearly say that.
No, I union thug that I am, like, there's appetite across the country, across all professions, to drop the college requirement type of stuff, because there's plenty of quality. But I'm monopolizing everybody's time, and I'm going to move on. I'd love to talk to you later, but there's other questions.
Thank you, Brian.
Quick question or follow-up, actually, regarding the auxiliary program. How serious is the department about re-examining or relaunching auxiliaries? I know DC is reimagining their program as we speak. If you guys are like, if there's severe or like enough interest in the program, I am happy to talk to you guys and potentially provide a grant from my personal foundation to kind of prime the program with equipment needed and uniforms needed if you guys want to relaunch it.
And I'll tell you, I appreciate that. Thank you. Do I pronounce it Hazim?
Hazam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that offer. I will tell you, our issue with the auxiliary program is not because of lack of funding. It is not funding. It is more so finding people within our community that want to be an auxiliary officer, and that's probably the bigger issue, as opposed to fund. I wish it was funding. It's not. It's really not. I'm going to look into. I didn't know DC was revamping them. It makes sense. I think everybody needs to reimagine everything we do nowadays because of the shrinking workforce. But again, I think for us, we're looking into how do we look at our workforce moving forward into the 21st, 22nd century. I will tell you guys, and I can answer a question as long as you want. I just want to talk to that point. One thing, and I'm going to ask Sergeant Queen, unless there's specific questions for me, to give it. Just if I have time, Alex, can we have 5 minutes to talk about some things that we're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I have 3 more questions for you after that.
Oh, sure. No, go right ahead. I'll answer those questions first. Let me answer those first.
Sorry, everybody in the chat. The first is, I think we might have touched upon the giant recent grocery store incident. We had a member of the community actually had some video footage. I believe his name's Max. He might have sent that off to you or not. If not, I can ping him on Facebook and see if he can maybe send that. The question specifically was, are these robberies from this is the Penrose Square Giant? Are these crimes of opportunity, or is there a recent criminal trend? And I think were you touching upon the point with this as the example earlier?
It is an example of it, and I'll tell you something. I've heard from several residents, not just at this giant, but other grocery stores. And I will tell you, we are not getting, at least to my knowledge, an abundance of reporting of larcenies from the store. So just what I want to explain to everybody, understand this. If you see a crime occurring, in most cases, if it's a misdemeanor, there are a few exceptions that a police officer can make an arrest of a misdemeanor which was not in their presence. And so, it's unfortunate. But then again, we've seen now too, Giant is a business, a retailer. We are not hearing from them as to seeing this crime. Unfortunately for all of us, what they're probably doing is the same thing that all the other retailers do. They're taking that loss and they're putting it back on us. That's why we're all paying $5 and $6 for eggs. But I am not seeing. We're not getting reports of that. Like I said, your larcenies went up slightly, but not over not something that's it's bringing its attention to us. But what I'm going to do is have your representative from our team. I'm going to have them contact the Penrose Giant because this is the second time with a group that I've heard this, just to kind of see what Giant's perspective is on this, because I don't know what their perspective is, if they even care. There are actually retailers in like Pentagon City Mall, to give you an example, that you can walk out of those stores every day with clothes and they would not even want to prosecute you. Only because it's not worth their time to pay an employee to go to court. And that's just the way some retailers and unfortunately for us, we need them to prosecute. We cannot prosecute a case like that on our own. And so what I will, to be fair, I will have us reach out to Giant to see if indeed they're seeing an issue. And I will get back to Alex. I will get back to you, Alex, with that.
Thank you. Please feel free to CC me. I mean, we see, I mean, separate, but with their shopping carts, I talked to the president of Giant Food on LinkedIn. We've been at this for over a year with them. I mean, I don't know what more I can do. They're just sort of not concerned, or at least corporate's not concerned with the theft of their shopping carts, which cannot be cheap and really hurting the customer experience. I know for a fact that Giant's owned by Ahold Industries, which is like a $2 billion parent company. So as you said, I guess that they're willing to take the hit instead of go through the motions of prosecuting for something like this, shopping carts or something else. I had two other questions here quickly for you. One was about the racing down Columbia Pike.
That's the first I'm hearing of this. I have not seen. Now, are we considering it actual drag racing, or are we saying about high speed of traffic in Columbia Pike? So either one, let me address it the same way. You all know that we were recently approved to include speed cameras. I will say that speed cameras can only be deployed around the schools. Either way, we are now going through the procurement process with contracts, but we are hoping to have speed cameras in the county. I shouldn't even say when, because I don't want to go back on my word, because I don't know where they are contractually, but I'm hoping that it should be here by the fall, that we're going to have speed cameras in the county, which I think, whether it be drag racing or high speed of traffic, that will address those. And I will tell you, other states that are implemented speed cameras have said that is definitely, without a question, helping with compliance, which is the whole goal for speed cameras, is just to change behavior. Because I don't know about you guys, but if I speed down the road and I keep on getting hit with a $50 fine, at some point I'm going to stop or slow down.
Absolutely. Heather, did you want to touch upon that? That was Heather's question.
Yeah, my question is more not necessarily about like speed cameras on main roads, but like a lot of this residential area where a lot of people walk to the grocery store, walk their dogs, whatever. Like yesterday, there was two motorcycles that were totally racing down 9th Street. Now on both sides of that, you have the grocery store and some homes. It's not a place where you would race. On South Wayne, you see people driving wicked fast through there, not stopping for the stoplight because they want to try to get on George W. Parkway because there's like a little trail through there. It's just, to me, as a pedestrian and a dog walker, I feel like it's been very difficult to be safe. Like, I can't wear headphones outside anymore because I need to be able to hear the cars coming. You know what I mean?
No, and that is tough. And so what I'm going to do, one way to do this is I'm going to put in the chat right now, and you guys have probably already seen this, but we do have a way for you to report this kind of aggressive driving to our special operations section, which is our traffic folks. And I will tell you, and people are surprised when I tell them this, they actually do look at these forms, and we deploy our resources, especially when we see the same location time and time again. We actually have a grant that we use every year from DMV that officers can do up to, I think, 40 to 70 hours of I don't think it's 70, up to 40 hours of overtime a month, deployed to places where people are reporting aggressive driving, no right on red, or right on red, or speeding. And a lot of it is deployed based on, it has to be data-based. So it's based on things like these forms. So I implore you all, and I know it's a pain, but you calling 911 or the non-emergency number after you see people racing, to be honest with you, unless it's the same time every day, that's a waste, because by the time officers get there, they're gone. But what I would say is, if you get the information, put it in this form, and that will make officers deploy there periodically to try and look for that same behavior.
Okay. I will link the form and save it as a bookmark.
Thank you.
I had one more, and then we'll get to Hazim's comment, and I think that should probably take care of everything, unless anybody else has anything we haven't touched upon. Specifically is related to the car sets. I know the Japanese made, like the Kias, Hyundai, very popular models of, the steps, and also, are you seeing a lot of these as being we're not the car itself is raw, but we have a lot of catalytic converter steps. Have you seen an uptick in that recently? I certainly read anecdotally that's certainly an issue.
Oh, it's absolutely an issue. It's a national problem, to be honest with you, not just here in Arlington. We have seen it go down just slightly in the last couple of months, but that could rise. That could just be because of the weather. Once the summertime comes, that could totally change. One thing that we've seen people, two things that come to mind when it comes to catalytic converters. One, there are, and again, there are some makers that actually make a catalytic converter protector. If you can imagine, it's a metal armor, shall we say, that goes over your catalytic converter that is secured in there to kind of protect it from people getting it. Of course, if they really want it, they'll still get it, but it's going to take a considerable amount of time, and most people wouldn't do it. The other thing we like to tell people to do, and we gave this out during our block party last year, was to put your ID or put your VIN number on your catalytic converter. That will not stop thieves from taking it, but if it's recovered, and periodically they are recovered, we can at least take it back to get it back to the owner. But more importantly, if a suspect is arrested with a catalytic converter with your VIN number on it, we can put it back and charge them for your crime when they took your catalytic converter. But that continues to be a challenge for us, I think, nationally. It's about awareness, but again, I just gave you two methods. I'm actually trying to see if we can come with an agreement with some of our local garages to see if they would actually do the VIN-itching on some of our residents' catalytic converters. So stand by for that, because that's been a goal of ours for a while. And I'm hoping by this summer we can bring that true for our residents.
Excellent. And Hazim, I'm going to give you the last word here.
Yeah, no, quick question that came up, officer. It's concerning to hear that businesses, especially in the Pentagon Mall and that area, which has been hit continuously, are not reporting crime against their businesses. I understand they are the victims in this case. However, by law, I'm guessing they do not have to report. Do you think this is something that there would be interest in introducing legislation, something that the Senate can be interested in adopting into an obligation to report a crime, so you guys can act on something that the concern here that if I'm Hugo Boss in Pentagon City and I allow a crime against me, then the next place hit will be Nordstrom, then maybe Bloomingdale's, then I don't know. Then we become a target for crime, and we do not want to end up like San Diego. Trust me.
Well, I'm not going to say that every retailer in Pentagon City Mall is not reporting crime. A lot of them do, but I'm not saying all of them do. And some of them will look at it like, is it worth it? And in some cases, to be quite honest with you, they'll report it, but then when they find out, they have to come to court, because they do have to come to court. They're the victim. They do have to come to court. Any officer cannot go to court and prosecute and testify against someone who supposedly stole from a store, and the victim, the store, is not there, because we more than likely did not see them steal the item. So we need those.
You need your witness.
Yeah, we do. Do I think that's a legislative thing? I probably doubt it. I'll be honest with you. The only time the legislation has taken that kind of law out of the hands of true victims, the most popular one and the most righteous one, to be honest with you, is like domestic violence. when there are reasons why we have said, you know what, we're not going to put that because of fear. We're not going to put that on the victim of the domestic violence that they have to prosecute. The legislation I think made it's a great decision to say that officers don't need that. As long as we have probable cause to make an arrest, and we can do so regardless of what the victim does. I don't know if the legislation would ever make that decision for retail. I can't see that. That's just my personal opinion.
Thank you for answering that. And just another plug for the auxiliary program. I feel like more bodies in the mall, more patrol cars, and may not have to stop and prosecute a crime, but the presence is very important. And we've been feeling the lack of presence over the past few years. It's not only you guys, it's schools, it's hospitals, it's everybody. It's the nation, really. But we'd love to find a way to help.
No, I don't disagree with you like that, and I truly appreciate that. And like I said, we're in discussions about that, but I know exactly what you mean. Everybody wants it's you know what it is, to be honest with all of you. Everybody wants the police, but some people hate the police. You want us, but some people want us, but they don't want us. That's what I like to say. And so that's the challenge. But right now, being 65 officers down is definitely challenging for us. Our officers are working a tremendous amount of overtime every month, and it's weighing on them as well, them and their family time, their work-life balance, and so forth.
Well, everybody on this call loves you and wants you. So rest assured. Thank you for everything you do.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. I'll definitely follow up with email. But yeah, like it's the whole region. It's like when you can bounce between law enforcement agency, like you're going to go to one of the best benefits. And so it sucks. Also, are you disappointed with the lack of gun violence prevention legislature action this year in Richmond? Like the only one that got through was the tax credits for gun safes and locks, which doesn't cost anything.
And that wasn't even, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, as a police officer, we tend to stay neutral when it comes to things like, anything related to guns and Second Amendment. That's a very controversial topic in our nation, let alone Virginia. So staying neutral as I can, I will just say this. For us, I think for us, where I stand is that, I want people to know be educated as to having good gun safety. Yeah, if you choose to own a gun and the law allows you to, so be it. I think we can all agree that there are some people that should not have guns, and hopefully the law takes care of that. But for me, I think it's about gun safety, making sure people are aware of it, keep guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have it, and certainly out of the hands of our youth, because they haven't been trained to use it until such time they are.
There's a question in the comments. Is this an open carry area? It is.
Oh, absolutely. All of Virginia is. All of Virginia is open carry, not just Arlington. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't see it very often. I can't remember the last open carry we've ever responded to. But usually, remember, although we're an open carry, businesses can always refuse to have you in their business.
I mean, I see it every once in a while. People go to like Northside Social to open carry from other parts of they definitely are not from here, and they'll come here just to open carry in Arlington just to be a political point.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an open. It's open. Yeah, I mean, the whole Commonwealth's an open carry. I mean, yeah, and I'll tell you that if I'm not mistaken, permits for concealed weapons are rising. So again, that's another indicator that we're seeing more and more gun purchasing. So if people getting their permits are rising, that's a good indicator. Whether it be those are obviously legal ones, but I can't comment on illegal ones because who knows.
So I have one last question right here. So the 65 officers down, does that not, that's the same number that correlates even with, I believe, was it last year, if I'm not mistaken, a new class of ACPD recruits? I had a friend of mine who was trying to join and become a new recruit. Was that last year where you had a new wave of folks trying to join the force?
Yeah, well, we lost a lot of officers last year. Last year was a very bad year for us between retirements and between people who resigned. It's almost, well, I'll tell you, we could not hire fast enough to replace what we were losing. And so, after the social justice movement, as well as just your people who are just naturally retiring, we lost a lot of officers. We lost a lot of officers who decided to leave the profession. We lost a lot of officers who decided to go to the private sector. And so it's very unfortunate. And it's also extremely tough now to hire officers. I will tell you, currently, I believe we have 9 officers in the academy. Our next academy will be in June. And we just had 14 graduate this past November. And so it's a constant struggle to bring people into the profession. I think it's a calling. Not everybody can, people may want to, but not everybody can be a cop. And I get that. So it's really our recruitment folks are doing a tremendous job. We're all recruiters, even me. Everybody's a recruiter for the police department, but those who do it full time, they travel near and far. And we have as we give them a huge budget to try and get to those folks who we think we need to bring a diverse, highly qualified police department here to Arlington. So, kudos to them, but they have a tough job. They do. They have a tough job. They really do. And of course, when you see things like, honestly, when you see things like what happened to George Floyd, when you see things that happened to Memphis, those again continue to be a challenge for our profession.
And also, it's fair to say that because of the DC area, like there's a lot of competition for law enforcement personnel. Like you can go to Montgomery County, you can go federal, you can go all these. So like we have to maintain pay and competitiveness with all and housing affordability. Like,
oh, that's huge.
We want you all to live in the county, and it's not easy to afford to live here. And so
no. And in fact, Sergeant Queen lives in your neighborhood. But yes, it is extremely challenging for officers, especially coming from the outside, which again, we have to recruit outside of this area. And so when you talk about housing compared to our salaries, yeah, it is challenging. It really is. And so, if I was to ask you guys to do anything, I would ask you as a community to advocate for public safety, having affordable housing in the county, and of course, having the benefits and pay.
And that's true for fire as well.
Oh, absolutely. But yes, you're right. But also remember too, fire is, if I'm not mistaken, and you're 100% for fire, but fire is fully staffed. We are not. So there's a challenge for them. Yeah, they don't have the problems we have, recruitment and retention. There are a lot more people, I think, right now that want to be a firefighter than a police officer.
One quick question. Thank you again for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
If the numbers continue to go down, will they ever call in like the National Guard to assist so that residents are safe?
No, we've never even thought of that. I mean, there is, I don't want to say there's a magical number, but there's certainly, if our numbers, which we don't think is going to get to that point, if the numbers were to become depleted to the point where it affects services, we would probably change our schedule. That would be, well, our next, we would either go to mandatory overtime or change our current schedule for our officers, which would give them longer shifts and more time on the road. That's something we do. That's like the last step. We don't want to do. Our officers deserve their time off. They have an attractive schedule right now. And the last thing we want to do is take that away. There are a lot of departments like Fairfax just recently, or not recently, a couple of months ago, they had to go to 12-hour shifts. 12-hour shifts in policing. There's been studies, and you don't even need a study to tell you, anybody working a 12-hour shift, that's hard. That's hard, and it's long, it's bad for your body, bad for your family. But Fairfax decided to go to that a couple of months ago. That is the last thing we want to do.
Yeah.
We're nowhere. I don't think we're anywhere close to there yet, Sheila. And I'm hoping that we don't get close to there.
Okay. My son is a homicide detective in PG County.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Deputy Chief Vincent or Sergeant Queen?
I just have a big thank you, and we appreciate all the work that you're doing for our hood here.
Well, thank you, Heather. I do appreciate that. I want to thank all of you. Of course, you, Alex. Alex, I wish you a healthy and a quick recovery, brother.
Thank you.
But I want to thank all of you for inviting us. I know we didn't get a chance to hear from Sergeant Queen, but I know we've taken up almost an hour and 15 minutes.
Well, he's in the neighborhood. We'll have him in person coming
You
up.
should, yeah. If you, yeah, he lives in your community.
Yes, I am. I am in your neighborhood. I know Penrose Park very well. I raised 3 children at Wakefield and been to Penrose Park many times. Unfortunately, I can't afford to buy in our neighborhood, so I'm a renter.
Same. Same.
Hey, Aaron, when you get a chance, could you put your email in the chat for me, please? I would just say this, Alex, anytime you and your community wants to see us, please reach out. We're always available. We're always willing to come out. And like I said, like I did a couple of weeks ago, and Alex knows this, if something major happens in your neighborhood, we have no problem reaching out to normally the Pikes Presidents Group, because it just makes it kind of easier. Reach out to them first to kind of give an update. And certainly if we can, if you guys want, we don't mind coming back.
Absolutely. We greatly appreciate that. And I'm big on facilitating two-way communication. I think we certainly need a lot more of that across the county with county staff, first responders, and our local elected officials, for sure. So I couldn't be more appreciative of your time, Deputy Chief Vincent, and we'll definitely have you join us for one of our dinners there, Sergeant Queen.
Absolutely. Anytime. 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 I love coming out to see everybody. I love our community. So please, anytime. You guys take care. I put my email in there. If anybody has any lingering questions they couldn't think of now, or they have it tomorrow or next week, please email myself or Sergeant Queen anytime.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, and have a good one.
You as well.
Okay, we'll get everybody out of here the next 4 minutes or so. We'll run through some quick community updates. Terry, you still on? I'll take that as a no. Okay. So we had a good showing with our tree canopy equity fund with Eco Action. We went around the neighborhood the last several months, almost probably 4 months, 6 months or so. Got a lot of trees planted. We're waiting on some after action report data from them as well. We got a lot planted by Fillmore Gardens apartment complex, and we're waiting to see. We got some planted at people's residences in their backyards, single family homeowners. It's fantastic. So once we get some more data, maybe Terry and Margaret will have some stuff for us in the coming days. Happy to share that. I did want to mention that I know there was some folks with umbrage with the survey that came out that we shared a bit in the Facebook group and on the email thread. It was voted on, so alcohol is now allowed at special permitted events at Penrose Square. So you can't just whip out a 6-pack of Bud Light there, but for special permitted events, alcohol will be allowed. I would imagine this summer. So be aware of that. Currently, I'm working on finishing up our long overdue website update. Meredith and I, our treasurer, are going to go to PNC Bank this month once I'm able to do so physically, and get things straightened out with PNC. And then we're going to have a really cool setup via PayPal where folks can see as a subscription model, actually, and I can see as an overview who's paid their dues and then who would be set to renew their dues a year out. So instead of sort of going through it individually, et cetera, et cetera. So on the horizon, we're planning to have County Board Member Libby Garvey join us on March 8th virtually at 7 p.m. to give an informational, I know everybody's very divided on the missing middle housing issue, with good reason, but this will be a strictly informational virtual presentation that she'll be leading with the latest data. Just very briefly, they trimmed the proposal down from 8 plexes down to 6 plexes. I know some folks are happy about that, others very dismayed by that, but she'll give us the latest update on what's going to be voted on the upcoming month of March. Other than that, for March's in-person meeting, I'm planning to invite Commonwealth Attorney candidate Josh Katcher to our monthly general March meeting in person. That's going to be over at Trinity Episcopal Church, and maybe we can get dinner at Sabores, the new restaurant that opened up in place of Sakira El Poblano beforehand. And I, of course, want to give equal time to all candidates in the Democratic primary. So I will, of course, be inviting Carissa DeCani-Cassi, our current Commonwealth Attorney incumbent, as well. So other than that, I have one last slide and then we'll be out of here. Michelle Stallhut, our form-based code representative, couldn't join us this evening, but she wanted to update us that there still have not been form-based code related updated submissions from the Barcroft Apartments, which is not in the neighborhood, but on the Pike and the northeast corner of Glebe and Columbia Pike. The Bank of America site there has been approved as a new board item, and that's going to be pending 250 unit apartment complex. So stay tuned for that. Approved, but we'll be changing this year. The Elliott, which is going to be that whole 2800 block of Columbia Pike from the CVS all the way down to those first Art Deco buildings where Acme Pie is. That's going to be a 247 unit apartment complex. This has just been in limbo. Why we've had all the graffiti there and nothing's happening is that they're currently in the process of amending their site plan. So we're hoping for an applicant update at next month's meeting, and maybe we get the show on the road with that at some point. So, I do know any other questions. Everybody's free to.
Alex, did you see Margaret, 80 trees approved so far?
Oh, excellent. 80 trees. That's awesome.
Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And excellent. So for the other piece of that, which is, you know, in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So hopefully we can get us some residential data and we can see what was done outside of Fillmore Gardens, of course. Do you have a question, Arthur?
Yeah. Do you know anything about the Elliott potential site plan changes? Is that going to make things worse, better, or you have no idea?
I can get the specifics from Michelle. I didn't go to she does all our form-based code stuff, but I'll get the latest update and I'll be sure to get you a copy of that and make that.
I think part of the question, Alex, maybe not the whole thing, but part.
Yeah. Whatever the latest changes are. So I know there's last time I saw there's going to be how many parking units, Terry? Did you know? Did you say 150
units and 250 parking?
250 parking, 247 units. Okay, so there'll be that extra, give or take, 3 spaces or so for parking. So I haven't heard any changes to the parking or unit situation, but I'll definitely check with Michelle and we'll get you the latest the changes they have on the horizon and why that they're currently. I don't know why they're amending their site plan.
I do. It's the grocery store pulled out.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We were looking at having the Amazon Fresh, and they must have pulled out. If it was
they're saying it was never Amazon Fresh, or they're actually saying they don't know who it was. It was always kept secret.
Okay, interesting. Okay, that's right. Thank you, Terry. Yeah.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Well, I hope they replace it with retail as opposed to deciding make more parking spaces out of it.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is what our new website's going to look like, the homepage, getting that all set up. That's really excited to launch that. It's going to look really cool. Quick slideshow of some of our past events for new members who haven't joined a meeting. I definitely want to take another trip to the Black Heritage Museum of Arlington that has moved, and that's now in the ECDC building up a block. That's no longer obviously in that stretch where salsa room and all that's going to be demolished at some point. We had a Penrose Pride Parade last, I think June is Pride Month to my knowledge. We had that over at Butler Homes Park. Love to redo that again this year. We do, I put on several historical walking tours. We'd love to do another one coming April or May. We did a coffee with a cop here. There's Judy. I would love to do with, and Terry was excellent in facilitating this and getting this all together. Another neighborhood cleanup. We did one at Penrose Park this past year, and that was fantastic. We had I invited my colleagues over to Arlington JC's, and we had a great time, and that was really awesome. So thank you.
Alex, remember that we're trying to work with the Parks Department to do an invasive removal at Penrose Park in the wooded area. However, due to the poison ivy in there, we have to be careful. So we definitely need their help. And just remember to keep kids out of there because poison ivy's everywhere. And that is not an invasive, that's a native. So that's not what they're going to look at the liriope, the honeysuckle, and the English ivy. And so that's a project they thought they could help us on.
And of course, we have all the great stuff hosted by Columbia Pike Partnership. These are all some photos I took of. I do the official photography for a lot of stuff on the Pike. This is last year's Blues Festival with, I think her name was Shamika Copeland. I don't know who's going to be in the lineup this year, but once I find out, I'll let everybody know. So, and that's always, as you can see, a blast. So, other than that, that's all I got. So, appreciate everybody coming out. And I'm going to drop my email in the chat one more time if you want to reach out to me about anything.
Thank you, Alex.
My pleasure. Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you all in person in the coming months.
Good night.
Right,
Thanks. See you soon. Bye.
Night.
Y'all.